Today's speaker is Elise Stoner, and I met Elise through a mastermind group that I am a part of, and I was really impressed by her experience in event planning and client engagement. She is a native of Willow Grove and has her undergraduate degree from the University of Maryland. After 25 plus years of unique event marketing and production experience, she then earned a certificate in digital event strategy. She is the founder of Fresh Perspective Consulting, where she helps professionals, associations, and education organizations maximize the return on their connecting opportunities. She has told me that it is her life mission to get rid of sucky events. She started her business because she was tired of attending poorly planned events and seeing her clients' money wasted. Using her innovative ROM, return on the moment paradigm, Elise's partners increase the marketing value of these in-person or virtual moments through proven planning, producing, and follow-up ideas, many of which we'll be talking about today. Elise, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here today. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we can get started. There we go. Okay. That, and we're going to choose that one. And there we go. Can everybody see my slides? Excellent. So here we go. So I appreciate everybody coming today. I know that this is really quite the hot topic. You know, we're waiting to find out when we can actually hug people again and have coffee with people again. But we also know that we can't stop the clock from ticking. So we need to figure out a way how we can still move our businesses forward, move our relationships forward in a time that, quite honestly, we've never really seen before. So we're going to talk about that. A few little housekeeping things. I totally appreciate everybody having their microphones turned off, although I really would love to hear more about Rebecca's daughter and her Charlotte's Web experience, because I think if you're a parent, you've had that moment of like, right, forgot to tell you that part. Don't want to spoil the end. But I do want this to be an interactive presentation. So if you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and interrupt. Or if that doesn't feel comfortable, Megan from the Bar Association is monitoring the chat. So type the question in the chat and she'll interrupt me. So we will go from there. How's that? Okay, let's go next slide. Okay, so here's what we're gonna, stop, close that. So here's what we're gonna talk about today. We're gonna talk about understanding the why, understanding the who of these connections that we're building and why that matters. We're going to have a little conversation to talk about the difference between IRL, in real life for anybody who doesn't have teenagers in their house, versus URL, which is that web address so that you type in the top. So it's this combination of what happens in real life versus what happens in virtual, and that there really are differences in how you need to present and things to think about. We're going to talk about personality types, but not the personality types that you're thinking about. And then we're going to have our DIYN, do it yourself now ideas, things that you can start doing right now, things that maybe you need to think about to figure out how you're going to start doing it right now. And then of course I'll open at the end for questions. So I found this quote the other day, and even though it talks about events, I feel like it really kind of captures this whole essence. And like Rebecca said, and yes, those actually were my words about trying to get rid of sucky events, because the goal is to always leave people. And when I say that, we talk about like engagement strategy, right? We want to leave people looking for more and that they're eager for our next conversation. And we also want them to be motivated to share what they've learned from us. Now, in this case, they're saying in all their media channels. That may or may not be the case. That is also really applies to like our power partners or even using our clients as our greatest marketing tool. I've been on a couple calls, just as a side note, and people like to say, oh, we don't do marketing. I just go with client referrals, or I connect with people that are in like tangential businesses, and that's how I grow my business. And I really just want to like say, stop. That's marketing. Marketing isn't just like I bought an ad and it was on TV, or I bought a Facebook ad. Anything that you're doing to connect with people to move your business forward, that's marketing. So before we get started, or for much deeper into this, I want to show you this really cool thing with Zoom. So this little bar, I want to kind of gauge for everybody that's on the call right now, what's your comfort level right now in this virtual connecting space? And what I mean by that comfort level is, are you not only comfortable with what you're doing, but feeling like what you're doing is actually getting you results? So here's what you do. Take your cursor, go up to the top where it says screen sharing, and there's a little pencil and it says annotate. You click on that, and there's a choice for stamps. Pick whatever stamp makes you happy and stamp along the line here to show me where your comfort level is. Ready? Go. Huh. Okay. So it looks like we're kind of, there's some people who are like all into this and great. And some who aren't so sure. And that's perfect, because you know what? That's why you're here. So with that, I want to take a moment and I'm going to clear these off. And then I'm going to have Megan put up a poll, because I think really one of the things we want to do is get to know each other a little bit better. Rebecca did a great job of introducing me, but this is one of my favorite party games, if you will. It's called Two Truths and a Lie. Megan, you want to go ahead and put that poll up? So I don't know if you guys have played this before, but 2 of these statements are true and 1 of them is a lie. And even though you really don't know that much about me, select which one you think is the legit one, or which one you think is false, and the other 2 are true. And then we're going to see how good you do. And then I guess, Megan, whenever you feel like we're in a good spot, because I can't see it, let me know when you can put the results up. Okay. Everybody have their votes in? We're good? Okay. So here's a little bit about me. Let me just go to my next. So if we're saying which statements are false, actually the first one is false, that my sons encouraged me to be a fruitcake on the radio on Radio Margaritaville. I actually was a fruitcake on the radio. And what that is Radio Margaritaville is Jimmy Buffett's Sirius XM radio station. And he does like a listener call in where you can like tell your Jimmy Buffett stories. And then you pick 3 songs to play that go along with whatever. So 2 Thanksgivings ago, I was a fruitcake on the radio. I am a parrot head. I met my husband in Mobile, Alabama, which is Jimmy's hometown. And yeah, so they didn't encourage me. I totally took it upon myself to like prove to them that I could do this. So in fact, I have been on a date with a rodeo clown. And I have lived in every continental US time zone except Mountain. So there's a little bit about me. I need to get this to progress. Hold on one second. Why is I want to turn my annotator off. There we go. Okay, hang on one second. Sorry, I'm having a moment. Okay, there we go. So a little bit more about me and why Fresh Perspective is what I do. As Rebecca mentioned, I grew up in Willow Grove. I'm a graduate of the Abington Friends School. A little fact for those of you who don't know, our mascot is the kangaroo. So I went from being a kangaroo to a turtle and did my undergrad at the University of Maryland. And then I started this career in the sports and entertainment world. I worked for Spectacor. I would say most of the people on this call, I love you because you get the fact when I say I worked at the Spectrum, that you know what I'm actually talking about. And after I did some stints with them, which is what took me to a lot of these different places and really taught me about event marketing, I went to the University of Delaware and was their first marketing director for the athletic department. Then from there, I went to the America East Conference. I was an assistant commissioner for marketing, promotions, and licensing. So not only did I have full control over our television production, but I was heavily involved in putting people in the seats for our championships. Life changes. I thought maybe you guys, I don't know, quick, let's see if I can do this. Anybody here, Northeastern University School of Law grad? I can't really see everybody, but I spent a couple years there doing their event planning. So I feel like a kindred spirit with you guys when I had a law professor say to me, I need you to promote this event that I'm doing on Sybil Gideon. And I'm like I'm a marketing person, like what's a Sybil Gideon? And he went totally Socratic on me. So, well, what do you think it is? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm ordering cookies. I don't know, but I learned all about it. And then I also worked for the Jewish Federation in Portland. So I've got experience in all of these different spaces, but it's all really event related and the idea of how do we connect with people to get them, quite honestly, to do what it is that we want them to do. So COVID comes and hits our world. So I spent some time this summer going back to school. So I am now certified as a digital event strategist, where I'm really helping people like yourselves figure out how do we take what we did before and turn it into a virtual experience. So that's just a little bit about me and why I'm here talking to you today. So let's dig in to, but enough about me. Let's dig in and some of my conversations with some of you previously, talking about like, what do we want this to look like? We really think that we're going to focus today on two categories. Our category over here are very happy clients who love us and we do amazing things for them. And over here, these are our power partners. When I was talking with Mary Kay and Ken and Rebecca before this whole idea of like what's missing. And it's that idea of like, I can't run into my colleagues on the steps of the courthouse. I don't get to have cookies with them before an MBA event. But those are people where we get business and it's about relationships. So we're gonna talk a little bit about understanding the why of these relationships and what we want to get out of those. So also we're going to talk about understanding the who. So we need to understand what motivates them, what motivates us, but everybody has a very specific person or personality type or demographic that they're trying to connect with. And one of the things that I think people sometimes forget about is that there's two sides to this. We've got our demographics, the gender, the race, the age, but then we have the psychographics, and that's more about people's attitudes and habits and their values. So when you're, I don't want to go all marketing on you, but when you're trying to figure out how to connect with people, the first thing you have to understand is who you're really wanting to connect with. And these two pieces play they play a ton into that. When we're talking about events, which we're not necessarily talking about right now, a strategy I like to use is creating an avatar. Like, who is that ideal client? Let's talk about like what they eat, where they live, what their habits are, so that we can kind of get a idea of how our message is going to inspire them and how our message is going to reach them. So we can talk a little bit more about that. And like I said, I will certainly entertain any questions that you have as it relates to that. Are there any questions to this point? Okay, awesome. Oh. Can you take a message? I'm not available at the moment. This is one of my very favorite topics because I feel like so many people don't take the time to think about their why. Has anybody heard of or know what the 5 why exercise is? If you do, like, unmute yourself so I can, because I can't see everybody on my screen. I can't see anybody on my screen. Okay, so the 5 why exercise was actually developed by the founder of Toyota. And the whole concept of it is to be able to kind of get to the root of your question or your problem or like why you do something. It's super simple. Like, it's asking why 5 times. So for example, I want to reach this audience. Well, why? Because they fit my demographic. Well, why? Because they are in the entertainment business, they need representation, and it's somebody who maybe is an up-and-coming person and they don't have anybody. Well, why? And you do that 5 times to just kind of like keep digging in to really get a handle on kind of that baseline. So these are just some of the whys that came to top of mind of why we're looking to connect with people. You want to expand your audience, right? You want to, and when I say audience, again, that's either clients or your power partners. Like, you need more, so you need to expand that. You're looking to connect because you want to engage the current audience. I've got these clients, I need more from them, or I have more services that I think would help them. I need to get in with them, or I've got these power partners and I want to engage a little bit more with them. Another why is broadening exposure. You were talking about virtual connections. You do things like giving a presentation to the Bar Association. You can, and then of course the top of mind access. So someone might not need your services now, but you want to be that person that they call when they do. So these are all just, again, there's probably a lot of different whys, but these are just some things to think about. Saying like, I say I want to increase my virtual connections, but really understanding what it is that you're trying to do is going to drive some of that. Now, here's the thing though. You're going to do that exercise, but also what's just as important is you have to understand their why. Why are they in the market for your services? Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I don't know if you can hear my dog's barking in the background. I love Zoom. Why, understanding their why, because while your why is super important, if they're the ones engaging with you, it's got to be about their why. Again, any questions? Does this resonate with folks? Is everybody still here? Awesome.
Lisa, I have a question. It's Mary Kay. So can you give us like some tips as to understanding what other people's whys are? Should we do surveys with existing clients, or, I mean, what are some practical ways for us to tap into that group?
Yeah, absolutely. I love surveys. People love to give their opinion. So I think you can survey, and I highly recommend surveying with a promise at the end, right? So it's everybody who answers the survey is going to get registered for a $20 Amazon gift card. It just is going to give you a better feel for, again, what they're looking for from them. Doing that with your collaborative partners, it could be one-on-one calls, right? You're looking to connect with them. So you send them a message and say, hey, can we set up a time to talk? I'm really trying to figure out how to make our relationship mutually beneficial. And you could flat out ask, like, what are you looking for from me? Like, how can I bring more value to you? And I think that goes a really long way, because how many times has somebody called you and asked you that question? Probably not a lot. I think, and we'll talk a little bit more about this when we get into the DIY ends, utilizing social media to ask questions and get people's opinion is also really helpful. And honestly, it starts a conversation. Does that help? I can't see. Yes, hopefully. So understanding all of this part, we're going to kind of do a little redirect and come back around. The next couple slides are going to talk about this IRL versus URL phenomenon and some tips and tricks on how they're different. This, honestly, when I took this digital event strategy class, the statement that ties into this screen just was the aha moment for me. The presenter said, you know, as event producers, we're always producing Broadway, right? We're producing this, which is not really Broadway, but like a concert. Now, when we're in the virtual world, we're presenting this, otherwise known as theater versus television. So when you are connecting with people, thinking about how do I do this in the Today Show methodology, right? Like from a production point of view, it's 3 minutes long, you're in, you're out, you tell a story, you've moved on to the next one. Where here, when you're in front of a large crowd, you can actually have, you get the feedback, you get the energy. If it's a good event, you don't really want it to end. So think about, as you're doing your connecting, thinking about how we're now living in the television world versus living in the arena stadium sort of space. An example of that, Rebecca and I were talking yesterday, and she said, you know, if I wanted to do like a client engagement event for my clients, like what does that look like and how does that relate in this space? And the reality of it is you could throw a lovely cocktail party when you had everybody in the space, but now you have to recognize not only are we working about in the television world, but we're also working with distractions, right? I've got my phone sitting right here. I've got my dog barking. I've got the Amazon driver at my front door. So short, sweet, to the point, but you could still make the connection that way. So that's, again, one of these differences between what we used to do and how we're going to do it now. The next thing I talk a lot about and I think about a lot is this is about venue, right? In the real world, we'd sit down, we'd have a cup of coffee with someone, we'd fill out our questionnaire or just get to know them or learn a little bit more about their business. And that was our venue. We could do that in person. And as I like to say to people, you know, if you're getting to know a client, you're not renting out the convention center. Like, we know what that venue looks like in our IRL space. Now we're living in the URL space, and we've got things like Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Zoom, and the experience we'll have later today with Rally. these are all very different experiences from a venue platform point of view, and understanding again what your why is and what you're trying to get out of it will really determine what you're doing here. So for example, I have a potential client, we were talking and he's like, yeah, you know, I'm thinking about doing a Facebook Live. His market is, he helps people decide which Medicare program they want to pick up. So they're like insurance consultants. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to do a Facebook Live. And I said, is your audience on Facebook? How are you letting them know that you're going to be doing that? Because I don't know if anybody's ever done a Facebook Live. Like if you are on Facebook and you pick up your phone, there's a button, you just hit live and you just start talking. Anybody can see it, good, bad, or indifferent. But if they're not your target audience, you're wasting your time. Where if you're saying, I want to do a small information session, perhaps Zoom is a better place to do that. I want to go to a networking event. We do a presentation on Zoom, and then we gather in a place like Rally, which, you know, I've been doing a lot of research on what all these different platforms look like, and it's just so cool. It's almost like they designed it to be like a bar. Where you walk in and you see all the people in there and you can choose who you speak with. So it's a great networking. It's one of the best networking spaces that I've seen in the digital space. So again, think about your platform as your venue and what it is. When you understand what it is that you're trying to accomplish, then that it kind of reveals itself. This one, I love this because I was like, oh, it's like a cool old camera that they've turned into a lamp. How cool that they repurposed this product. And that's something I love about virtual opportunity. This is being recorded. I actually got a phone call from one of your colleagues the other day saying, is this being recorded? I can't come. I've got a staff meeting that day, but I really want to see it. Like, I can't necessarily do that if I'm standing in front of you guys at the bar association. If it's not being recorded, there's usually a lot more expense involved in recording it in an IRL space. But now we press a button and I said, sure, just give Denise and Megan a call and they'll get you the link. And if anybody, you can do that with anything that you do. And if you have a video person or you know a video person or you have a teenager living in your house, they're a video person. You can do some really cool, interesting things with this content to connect with people who maybe weren't able to come onto your call, or you could do like a snippet if you're talking about a particular new statute that's come out. You can shoot that and then share that video, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the DIYN space. But there's lots of things you could do here that's so much easier than trying to do it in real life. So those are just a few of those differences between IRL and URL. And like I said, so many people are like, oh my God, I can't stand virtual. It's just so hard. My takeaway, it's just different. I don't think it's hard. It's different, but I think that there's a lot of great opportunity in it. Any questions on the IRL versus URL space? Okay. So now we're going to talk about, we now understand kind of who and why. We understand kind of the differences we want to do between what we did in person and how we can use URL to make it better. And now we're going to talk about what I call personality types. But as I said in the beginning, it's not my personality type. It's not your personality type. It's not even our client's personality type. It's the connection personality type. I wrote a blog a year or so ago talking about event types. And this kind of, again, ties into the, like, you go to an event, you think it's going to be one thing, but it's not, it's something else. And you're sort of like, well, what the hell is that all about? It's somebody who doesn't clearly understand the personality type. And I'll share a link with you guys. I compared it to the Disney princesses. You know, you can go online and take your quiz of which Disney princess are you. Now you can figure out what your personality is of your event. So when we're trying to connect with our clients, usually there's three things that we're trying to do with our personality types. We're doing an education event. I understand, and I keep going back and picking on Rebecca because, you know, we've become friends. And I know you did a presentation about the CARES Act, right?
Yes.
That's the education. It's, here's this thing, people have questions about it. I'm going to tell them a little bit more. I'm going to tell them where they can find resources. That's an education type event. You can do a cultivate event. Did anybody do anything around the holidays to try to connect with clients? I heard some conversation early on about a succulent bar in the MBA. That's a cultivate. Like, I feel good. I want you to know that I feel good. Another cultivate could be, like we were talking about, how we understand the whys of our clients. Doing a survey and having prizes. You're cultivating, you're building the relationship. And then the engagement, like I'm really actually trying to get my client from point A, or I should say, getting my potential client from being a potential client to a regular, you know, paying client. There are things that we would do in that virtual connection space to engage them, showing our expertise, doing a webinar, going on to other people's Facebook pages or LinkedIn pages and kind of sharing the expertise. So when I talk about personality types, think about the personality type that what you're trying to do with your virtual connection and how it serves your user. Now we also then have those personality types as they relate to our power partners, right? You can educate your power partners, like why you're the best person that they should call on when they need an estate lawyer, who they should call on for whatever your services are. I imagine everybody has those types of people. Again, we can never have enough of them. So you've got your cultivate. And then one of the other difference here is this associate. And when I was thinking about like these personality types and the power partner, that's like the networking groups. That's the boards that you serve on. Thinking about how am I going to connect with somebody through a board? And I imagine it's more, you're choosing a board that resonates either with you and your personality and your values, or something that benefits your potential client. So it's just kind of giving that a name, because then the other people that are on that board are either people you want to associate with, or they know other people who they're going to go, oh my gosh, Ken sits on this board with me. So if you're looking for, and I'm sorry, Ken, I don't know what kind of law you practice, but if you're looking for someone in this space, Ken's your guy. So just thinking about, again, when you're making these connections, where kind of the value is and that personality type of that. So now we're going to hit the DIY ends. Any questions, comments, songs? Okay. Let's do a quick, do you guys know how to use the reactions on the bottom of the screen? If you put your cursor down to the bottom, these little things pop up, and there's one that's reactions, and there's like a raised hand and a smiley face. So I'm just curious, how many of you use a CRM? Okay, I'm gonna take a quick look through here. I don't see many people. Okay, excellent. Sorry, I'm just having to scroll through a lot of pages. So it looks like some of you do.
Elise, there's a question of what is a CRM?
Excellent. So CRM stands for client relation management. So it is a mailing list. It's there are these fancy programs that you can use where it tracks like the last time you had a conversation with someone, and will actually like send them an email because you haven't talked to them in 10 days. So a CRM is kind of like the place where you keep the information about your clients. And you don't have to do a fancy one. It could be an Excel spreadsheet. It could be a yellow notepad. I don't really recommend that because, you know, it's kind of hard to automate that and to get through it because we're all so busy, right? That, you know, you're gonna have 4 notepads sitting there. But this is the first place that you need to start when you're talking about these about connecting with your clients. You have to know about them. You have to know where to find them. Things like that are probably on intake forms, you know, name, address, email. We were talking birth dates, date of engagement. Again, when you understand what their psychographics are too, you'll have an idea to understand what else you want to know about them. An example, I was talking with Rebecca the other day is, you know, if they're a sports fan, you might want to make a note of like, if they say like, what are their favorite teams? Or if they're into music, what that is. Are they a parent? What are the birth dates of their kids? Just, these are all different points that you can use to actually continue to connect with your client. Because then you can use them like, hey, you know, hey, Jimmy, I saw that, you know, I know in my database that Jimmy's a big Eagles fan, and, you know, their coach just got fired and I haven't talked to him in a while. I send him a link to that article and I'm like, hey, I was thinking of you and I'd love to hear your thought on Doug Peterson. You're connecting with them, you're raising to that top of mind, and whether it's, again, whether they need your services or, you know, you don't know who they're talking to that might say, hey, I need a lawyer who does X. They're going, oh, right, because I just heard from this person, so I'm going to make that referral. It's just the place where you're going to put all the information about your clients so that you can continue to grow the relationship. I was telling Rebecca, we most recently lived in Portland, Oregon before we moved back to Philadelphia in May. And so we had all of our estate paperwork done. And the guy who did it was a really nice guy, whatever we needed to do. We used to get a birthday card every year. And again, I know, and that's awesome. I'm a little bit of a cynic. And so I would look at it and go, so did you go and buy the box of like 300 really boring birthday cards? And somebody is like, oh, okay, our August birthdays, we're going to send them all out. And it was like, happy birthday, Elise. I hope it's a good year. I forget the guy's name, Jim. And I'm like, on one hand, I appreciate it. On the other hand, like, do you even know it's really my birthday, or does someone else send it? But it's a place to start. So if you're not doing those sorts of things, you know, this whole idea of the virtual connection, a lot of it in the DIY part of it does come back to IRL opportunities. So just a few things to think about. And again, this is this first place to start. Having all your information in one place, and then really thinking about like, what do you want to know about these people, and what's going to allow you to further connect with them. Here's the big question. So how do I do this? There's lots of different ways you can do it, but commit. Consistency is the key. If you don't feel like you have the bandwidth, if you want to find somebody else to help you do this, that's awesome, but just make sure it's consistent. I get a card one year, I don't get a card the next year. Sometimes I get an email, sometimes I don't. It's not going to build the level of connection and that level of referral that you're looking for if you're not consistent. You know, think about your power partners, right? Think about those people who do referrals. when you get a referral, it's usually from the person that you've either spoken to most recently or you do a lot of work with them because you're top of mind. Now, we have to do our jobs, right? So we can't say like, oh my God, I'm going to spend all my time like having virtual coffees with every power partner, but carving out a little bit of time to use this to grow your business, especially in the time that we're living in now, because you're not going to run into them. Like they're probably not going to be in your kitchen. So you're going to have to carve out a little bit of time and just be consistent in whatever it is you choose to do. This next slide is just 4 ideas of a bazillion that you could choose. Obviously, hey, here's a cool idea. We pick up the phone. Hey, how are you doing? I came across this great list a while ago, and I can share it with you guys about questions to ask somebody right now. When you get on the phone and you ask someone, hey, how are you doing? Fine. Well, they may be, but they're not going to go, can I tell you? But there are some really great questions that you can ask, like, hey, I'm wondering, what's the silver lining that you've seen in our quarantining over the past 10 months? Questions that are going to show that you care and that you're actually connecting, and it could give you information to put into your CRM. If you're not a phone person, this is one of my very favorites, video. You can shoot a video on your phone that you can share with people, whether you text it to them, whether you email it to them, but you need to be comfortable shooting a video. I was actually on a networking call the other day, and the presenter is a video producer, and she did this really great thing where she put us in breakout rooms, and she said, not only do I want you to meet the people in your room, but I want you to pick up your phone and actually shoot a video of yourself talking to whomever. And her message was also my previous message. Sometimes people don't like doing that because they're like, oh, I have to do it like 6 times. I just can't get it right. I don't really know what to say. By consistently doing it, you build up your knowledge and your comfort level. I also love videos because not a lot of people are doing them. So when you send a video to somebody, it kind of like catches them off guard. And it could just be a quick, hey, I was thinking of you. But it's just another way to do it. We could go real old school, maybe setting out a time during your week or over your weekend and writing 5 handwritten notes. I really value our relationship. I'm looking forward to doing more work with you and helping your clients. Let's find a time to connect. Again, it's this weird, we're talking about, again, virtual connections, but it's an old school connection that really works well in virtual. And then here's another example, and there's tons of these ideas. These are simply 4 that you could start doing now. This is the succulent bar, right? Did anybody get a package, or has anybody gone to a fundraiser recently where they send you a package ahead of time and you make your cookies, or you it's like a mixology class. You could send something to someone. A friend of mine was telling me they did it was their family, but it could certainly be a great client engagement coming together piece. There's a lot of performers who are out of work right now. I know, didn't Greg Offner do a presentation for you guys earlier in the year? He's a piano player. This friend of mine, he's one. A friend of mine did a magician, and she said, like 2 days before the performance, I got a box, and everybody, like every family that was on the call got a box, but we weren't allowed to open it. And when we got to the call, the magician does his show, and the props for his show are actually in the box. And she said it was totally creepy because some of them were like, the person on the call picks they had to roll a dice, and each number related to a different letter, and it made up a word. And it was, honestly, she told me the word was phantasmagorical. And like, as they were getting off the call, he's like, oh yeah, there's an envelope in there. Open up the envelope and see what's inside. And there's a piece of paper on there that says phantasmagorical. No idea how he did it, but she's like, she'll never forget it. And she'll never forget who put it together. So again, there's all these things that you can do, and they kind of run the gamut of your comfort level and your creativity. So those are just some quick DIYs. Here's another way to connect. And I'm circling this because I know in our introductory conversation, someone said to me, I don't want this to be just another social media, like tell me how I'm supposed to connect on social media presentation. So I promise that it's not, but I just have a quick story about LinkedIn. If you're not on it, again, I think you should be. It's different than social media. It really is this virtual networking opportunity. Like I said, I moved back to the Philadelphia area in May. So if anybody wants to know how you move across country during a pandemic, email me, I'll tell you all about it. But I moved and I have to restart my business. So I go on LinkedIn and I have some connections in the Philadelphia area. And I just started kind of going through, like, who do I know and who knows who? And I don't know if any of you guys, I'm sure a lot of you do know Michael Adler. And my maiden name is Adler. And I'm looking at the list and I'm like, okay, I don't know him, but it feels like I should because he knows a lot of people. I sent him a quick message and said, like, we don't know each other, but we should. And here are the 3 reasons why. You live in my neighborhood that I've just moved to. We know X, Y, and Z people that are the same. And my maiden name is Adler, so we could do a quick family tree to figure out if we're related. Can we set up a time to talk? And it worked. And I mean, he did. And I know he posted somewhere the other day that he's got like 10,000 connections, which is huge. But he made most of them during this time. And again, looking for clients, mostly in LinkedIn, it's going to be your power partners. So there are people out there in the big world who can give you a great presentation on LinkedIn and how to do it. And if you're interested, message me and I can connect you with them, or they may even want to come and give a presentation to you guys. So that's just sort of my piece of, like, I know it may not be your thing, but there is a lot of value in connecting with that. Here's my last piece in all of this. There are so many things that you can do and so many ways that you can connect with clients, to use clients for referrals, to connect with power partners and use power partners as referrals. But the bottom line is we all need to be like Abe and just be honest. Don't pick something that you're not going to do. Pick something that feels comfortable and feels authentic to you, and dive in there, because then you'll get your consistency. And when we talk about knowing our people's personalities, you're going to be connecting with people in a way that resonates with them as well. And that's really where the connection all happens. So with that, I thank you all very much. Again, I'm going to open this up for questions. And if there's anything I didn't cover or you're curious about, please unmute yourself and see what we got here. Anyone?
So I'm still having a hard time understanding, like, how to connect with people, like a large group of people. And maybe it's like I'm an introvert, so like I much rather like one-on-one conversations. And so when you have people like this, like there's 40 some people here, but obviously you've done most of the talking. So like if I was to put on an event or be a part of an event where this many people, like how do you do that?
Well, So I guess the first question I would ask is, why? What are you trying to get out of connecting with that many people at one time?
No, so like let's say that I'm the chair of a group at the bar,
Uh-huh.
right? And we have our meeting, but beyond it just being like one person talking at a time, there's usually mingling ahead before. It's like we kind of had today.
Right.
But usually what happens is like one person will talk and then there's like awkward silence.
Right.
And like people, but it's different than when you're doing when you're in person.
Right.
So like, is there a different platform that you would suggest or different techniques that you would suggest?
So we're gonna, when we finish up here, you all got the email about this rally video. We're gonna jump off of this and go to Rally and take a look at that. It's a really interesting networking platform where you can literally like click on a person's name and start a conversation with them. So you can have that one-on-one conversation like you would do when you're in a room full of people. You kind of go, okay, who's that person I want to talk to? Or, oh, hey, there's so-and-so and I haven't seen them in a while. So that's that. I would also recommend when you are networking, whether it's in person or on a Zoom call, go in with some goals. Like, I want to connect with a person, someone I've never met before. There's this really cool thing in the chat. If you can see, there's the button that says everyone, like where you can go and type your message, but there's a little arrow. If you click on the arrow, it brings up the list of everybody who's on the Zoom call, and you can private message somebody. So if you go in saying, I want to connect with 3 people in the Zoom call today, you go down there and you just send them a quick note saying, hey, Rebecca, it's so great to see you on here. How are things? What are the kids reading right now? And then you can connect with them offline if they're the right people, or hey, I've been trying to get in touch with you, Mary Kay. It's so good to see you here. Can we set up a time to talk next week? So it's very similar to what you would do in the real life space. It's just kind of learning some of the intricacies of the different programs. Anybody else? Okay. So if you think of other questions that didn't come up right now, obviously all my information is right here on this screen. I'm also going to ask the Bar Association to send out some information afterwards, a couple of these links that I've talked about. Feel free to reach out, and we can have a conversation about either what I spoke about or if I didn't answer your questions. So I thank everybody for joining us here, and you'll see that there are the instructions here. If you open up the PDF, we're going to hop over to Rally and see if we can make that work. And you can either log out of Zoom or simply just mute and turn off your video, because Rally has a video and audio piece to it. And if you don't mute and turn off your video in Zoom, it won't allow you to click in there. So I'm going to hop over there now, and I look forward to seeing everybody over there.
Thank you, Lise.
Yep.
Thanks very much, Elise. We appreciate
Sure, we'll see
the presentation today.
Sure, hop on over.